Welcome to Bronx Journalism. On tonight's program, we will be talking candidly with a retired member of the New York City Police Department, so we get some more insight of what it takes to be members of a New York finest. The training, the work, the split-second decision that a police officer has to make. Sometimes they're good and sometimes they may not be right. But to the officer, that was the right decision at the time. Police work is anything but easy. It takes a special person to be a police officer. Tonight we will have an opportunity to learn firsthand what it takes to be a New York City police officer. The training, being on the street, dealing with the people, crime, fights, domestic issues, gangs, school crime. So now we'll learn from someone who was there, from someone who worked on the street. Please welcome to our microphones, retired New York City Police Officer Thomas. We hope that you enjoyed tonight's program. Thank you for listening to Bronx Journal.
Good evening. Thank you for tuning in tonight. With you is host Lisa Nell and co-host Jonexi. Tonight we have a great show for you, something that's very important for the community. We will be interviewing a retired NYPD officer that goes by the name of Thomas. Thomas, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go straight into it.
Okay. What do you got?
My question to you, and I'm sure that everyone is very interested in knowing this, as anyone that's trying to pursue a career in the NYPD, why did you enter the NYPD? What was the process like? And is there any connection to family, any personal reasons why?
That's interesting. That's an interesting story. No, I'm not a legacy. That's called legacy when you follow the footsteps of your family. It's called legacy. No, I don't have a legacy. I was it's funny, funny story. A buddy of mine, an old Army buddy of mine, who was a sergeant at applicant investigation. So we were in Arizona. At the time, I was a conductor for New York City Transit, and I was lamenting. I said, "Oh man, I hate cops, and NYPD this and NYPD that." And he says, and he was a white guy, and he said, he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You can only affect change from within." And I was like, "You're right." So I took the test, and lo and behold, since he worked at applicant processing, when my name came in the system, he took my file and put it on top and made sure I got processed first.
Wow, so that's a very interesting story.
I know. It's a good.
So it was nothing ever that you thought that you were going to be growing up?
Well, there isn't. I mean, what little kid hasn't played cops and robbers?
Yeah.
So I mean, but I played Star Trek too. I was Captain Kirk. And so yeah, cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians. Spaceship. So, but so I'm sure there was a time in my youth where I would have honestly said that I would have pursued a job as a police officer. It goes. I think for me, it goes back to my inner integrity. So and of course, we're going to discuss it tonight, but you have to have a certain level of integrity to perform the duties.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So, and I thought that I was born with those. That integrity. So I think I just kind of I don't know if I became a cop because I had integrity was big for me, or the other way around. So I don't know. I think it's a meld of the two.
Okay. And what was your process like to get in, training wise?
It was I had at the time I had 5 years military service, and I'd been through basic training. I had gone through Desert Storm, so the academy was kind of for me, So I was like, oh, this is it, my thing. And not to be pretentious at all, but some of the NYPD physical academy kind of trains down to the lower denominator. So the training was not as difficult as some of the students had. Some of the other students had from a physical standpoint. From a mental aspect, a lot of the testing. I was older. I was 31 when I went into the academy, so I'd had a job. I had 3 kids.
Wow.
So
okay.
So I had experience. So a lot of the common sense things that come across in police work, I had already had. So I was a little bit. I had a leg up.
Okay.
So.
So you do say that being in the military did better
Oh,
prepare
100%.
you.
In fact, I believe that it should be a prerequisite, but that's just my personal opinion. You know, I think you'd have a better brand of police officer if everyone was exposed to the military culture.
Okay.
That's just my personal opinion.
And what did you mentioned that you went into the into NYPD when you're already 31, had a family, children. What did your family, children think of this?
My oldest daughter hated it. You know, I can't. She didn't think. I mean, she liked me being a conductor. I don't know why. I think she liked hat. So she had a problem with it. But you know, once I gave her, you know, certain assurances that nothing would happen to me, she was okay with it. But you know, I was going through a rough patch personal wise because my wife and I ended up splitting up while I was in the police academy. But you know, it's kind of sore subject for me. But the academy, so it was a little rough time for me.
Yeah, mine either. Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, how old were your children at the time when
At the time, let me see. My oldest daughter, let me see. I'm trying to do the math. 10. So it was like 10, 5, 10, 6, and 4.
Okay, so they were at an age where they were pretty aware of what was going on at the time. Okay. That sounds good. And okay, so question.
My career, I stayed in the Bronx. I stayed in the same precinct my entire career. So that's kind of unheard of. You know, I just attribute that to being lazy. You know, I didn't want to put in any. I didn't want to necessarily put in the paperwork to move. But see the thing. The thing that's fascinating about precinct work is because there are layers to that too. So you can be on patrol, which is the backbone of the police department, or you can do, you have various details. So there's anti-crime, and there's peddler, and then there's a school unit, and then there's what else? Summons detail. So so there are a lot of things that you can do within the precinct that you don't necessarily need to transfer out of. So to more the glamorous stuff that. All you civilians know about.
And how does that work then? Like, do you get to choose what exactly it is that you want? How does it work for anyone that's thinking of becoming a police officer?
The thing. Well, I'm sorry. Are we talking within the precinct, or are we still talking? You know, as a civilian walking in the door.
Okay, so you're saying that those titles, it's when within the precinct that you can.
Right, they're called details.
Okay, details.
Yeah, you're fine. No. So yeah, I mean, detail comes up, you put your name in, your hat, and then the boss they convene, and just like any other tribunal, you know, he asks you, you know, they look at your arrest record, they look at how many summonses you wrote, you know, how many CCRBs you have, you know. Like that, and usually, I mean, it's supposed to be a merit system, but you know, I don't know if you're gonna ask me any political questions. I don't know if you're warming me up for but
we'll see what comes out.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, like anything else, it's about most of the time it's about who you know, more than what you know. But
gotcha. Are we able to give specific precinct that you worked in?
I prefer not. I mean, anybody that's listening, you know, as we go along, if we start talking about demographics and geographics, you'll be able to figure it out. But I prefer not to. You know. I mean,
got it.
Again, I'm not trying to be whatever. You know.
Can I ask you something about
No, you cannot.
The quotes, the quotes that you guys have every.
Quotes.
Quotas.
Okay, okay. There's no such thing as quotas. I'm gonna go on record for that right now. So there's no such thing as quotas. Right, I'm gonna go there.
So every police officer has quotas that they have to meet.
I'm not gonna entertain that word. No? We don't use that. There are no quotas in NYPD.
So all right. So is there? Let me revise my question.
Yes, please.
Is there a certain amount of arrests you have to have every month?
Okay. All right. So we're gonna go there. All right. So here we go. So here. You have to make, I mean, just like any other job, you have to have productivity. You have to show productivity, right? I mean, if you work, if you worked at IBM or to borrow the infamous what's the movie? That movie I love, Office Space. you know, you have to do your TPS reports. You know, so you know what I'm saying. So if you have to have a certain number of TPS reports if you want to move on to your detail. Remember what I said when you asked me about how do you get a detail? Well, they look at how many arrests you made, how many summonses you wrote. They look at how many CCRBs you have, how many. You know what I'm saying. So those are things, those are all factors into whether or not you get to.
It's like a business in a sense.
It's all business.
All business.
That's the way I look at it. So, and I hated it when perps used to be like, "Yo, man, why you locking me up, brother? You know, you a sellout." You know, I'm like, this business.
Let me. I gotta follow up for you. So what happens when you're little? It's a good month. Well, I don't know if I should say a good month, but where. You go 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks in. No crimes has been going on. I mean, there's always crimes in New York City. I'm just saying where you're not arresting people as much because there's not really much going on. Then what do you go to the office?
Look,
what do you tell them? Man?
Give me 20 minutes and I'm gonna lock you up. You know, I'm gonna figure something out.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you because I'm good. I got skills, man. Give me 20 minutes.
You're gonna do.
You know how thick the You know how thick the New York State penal law is? This thick, bro. I'm gonna find something. I'm gonna find something to lock you up. I'm gonna find something, and you gonna click, man. You gonna be wearing brushes. And guess what? Mr. Visa gets happy because Mr. Visa gets paid this month. You know what I'm saying? I get to pay Mr. Visa. I get to pay Mr. MasterCard. I get to pay Mr. American Express. Everybody gets happy, so we all happy. Everybody eats.
You was an officer for 21 years.
Yes, sir.
You never felt bad for possibly
a case that you were
arresting someone that was innocent. Like
I'm gonna go on record.
Okay.
Right now, I was gonna give my real name. Thomas. Thank you. I have never made an arrest that I had a problem with. Not one.
So all your arrests were clean.
So I don't know where you're going with this. You know, I can only guess. Okay. I mean, listen. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, so don't put words in mine. No. So I'm going to say I have over 300 arrests.
Over 300. Okay.
And from where I work, that's light.
And the 21 years span, that is light. I think.
Well, I took 10 years off to go to the military. So it's only like 12 years.
You were doing both.
Correct, at the same time.
Military and.
So in the first 10 years of my career, I had over 300 arrests. You know what I'm saying? So and then the last 10, I kind of just mailed them in. So you know this because I got one of them details.
Oh, there you go.
I would like one more question before we get off this sensitive topic.
No, but listen, it.
Has there ever been a point where it's like where you feel like you didn't get enough arrests for the month where you were looking to get arrested?
That was never me.
Okay.
I mean, see, listen. Good. I know where you want to go.
Nope.
So I'm gonna listen. Hold on. Okay. I'm gonna make you ask the question. I'm gonna do your work for you. Because that was an interesting topic, but you didn't phrase the question right.
I didn't phrase it right. Okay.
No, because
help me out.
Because no, you're interviewing me, not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna help you out. But that was interesting. How you phrased that question. You almost got it.
Almost.
So a better question you could ask it if you'd have said, "Had I witnessed shady stuff?" That's a different answer.
Where I wanted to get
but you asked me, "Did I do anything shady?" And the answer to that is nope.
No. Okay.
But you could say that you did work or were.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you. Listen, this is what you brought me in for. So I'm gonna just tell you. There was a time, and we get into policy and procedures. In fact, I had just come back from military, and I was speaking to, and the precinct had changed. All the rookies and newcomers were there, and there was just a few old timers that I knew, and it was the Christmas party. So, and that's how I got reindoctrinated to the precinct. So we were at the Christmas party, and I was talking to the union rep, and I was like, yo, and I won't give his name, but yo, I said, yo, what's up, brother? He said, oh, dude, it's crazy, and he was on the conditions team. So he told me, he said, yo, these numbers, they driving these numbers. I said, what's wrong? He said, yo, he was in a building, Clean Halls. Is anyone familiar with Clean Halls?
Clean Halls? No.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Make a note.
Clean
Halls. So he said he was on a Clean Halls warrant, and he was in a building. It was Sunday morning. He said it was like, he was working day tour, so it had to be like, he was like 10 o'clock on a Sunday. Now, 10 o'clock on a Sunday in the Bronx, you know, I mean, that's you know.
A.M., P.M.?
In the morning, right?
In the morning.
So they rolled up on a guy who was in his pajamas and his slippers.
Wow.
He was knocking on 4A. Let's just say he was knocking on 4A, and they said, and it was an older Hispanic gentleman or Latino. I don't want to offend anybody. Hispanic, all right. Hispanic. And he said, is that your apartment? And he said, no, it's my buddy's apartment. You know what I'm saying? I just want to see, you know, we normally, and they had to translate it. We normally have coffee, Bustelo.
Bustelo,
You know,
okay.
the Bustelo, the
Dominican
espresso.
coffee?
Yeah, the espresso, right? Sunday morning, but he didn't come, so I'm knocking on the door, and he said, "Oh, this is not your apartment?" He said, "No, I live in 3C." So he said, "Well, if that's not your apartment, you gotta go." It's like, "No, but let me go downstairs and get my." No, you gotta go.
You gotta go.
Click, click. Now, you asking me if I would have did that, I wouldn't have did that. But stuff happens.
Now, why did you become a cop? Was it?
Could we go back to the clean halls?
But that's fine. Okay. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Well, but what are you going to saying about sorry, clean halls?
Clean halls, yes.
He wasn't in the room when we asked that question.
All right, no worries. We're good. We're good. Yeah. No, it's
no, but clean halls, you did some.
All right,
what is that? Inform us. What is clean halls?
Clean halls is a. Now you have to understand. I came into the apartment in the 90s. I mean, I'm looking at you guys, and you might have been kids in the 90s. I mean, if you were even here. So you may not remember the streets were kind of tough, and they were cleaning up. They were cleaning up the last of the drugs of the 80s.
Okay.
So Bratton came in with the broken windows concept, and the department changed. They figured out that if you lock somebody up for hopping the turnstile, and you run his badge, and then you find out, oh, he's wanted for a robbery, and he's also, so you close all these cases. So what they did, so they started enforcing the smaller crimes because they psychologists have discovered that if you do burglaries or you do robberies, chances are you're not going to get your fee on a turnstile either. So that's the psychology, the mentality of bad guys.
Okay.
So they started locking up guys for hopping a turnstile or fare evasion, and then they realized
petty crimes.
Right. And then they realized, well, wait a minute, he's wanted for this, that, and the third, and that's how the streets got clean in the 90s. So I oversimplified that, but that's kind of how the gist. So what happened? Clean halls. What now? You need. It's Sixth Amendment. It's Sixth Amendment, Fourth Amendment. So Fourth Amendment is search and seizure. Sixth Amendment is right to privacy. So you need to an agent of the state, i.e., the police department, can't enter in a building without cause.
Yeah, warranty. You need a warranty.
Well, you need a warrant, but not even probable cause. You need at least reasonable suspicion, and we could talk about that if you want.
Complaints,
Right. So what Clean Halls does was they got all these landlords to sign affidavits that it was, since they were the owners of the building, it was okay for the cops to enter the building to enforce trespass.
Under suspicious. Like,
well, just trespass. Okay. So you go because a cop can't walk in your building without being there for a reason. So Clean Halls program allowed the cops to enter these buildings under the Clean Halls program, which allow them to not search the building, but just make sure the building is free of trespassers. So that's what Clean Halls is.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gotcha.
That's why you see. You might see cops doing sweeps. I don't know if you guys live in the buildings, but in the Bronx. But you might have heard relatives or so. Cops, the 5-0 was in my building today. Was it the SWAT team? No, it was just like 3 or 4 undercover guys, and plainclothes guys. So that's why. So usually that's what it. Now again, I've been retired for a minute, so I don't know if they're still enforcing that. But that's how a lot of the bad guys got cleaned off the street.
How many years ago did you retire already? That you've been.
I retired in 2016.
Okay.
Oh, very recent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You were still a police officer, working in the force when the whole
we don't use force department. They changed it because it's police. We don't use police force. It's police department.
Police department.
We don't use force anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's bad. It gives us. Yes. We don't use police force. They do that in Cali. They call it the force in LA because it's LA. The cops in LA.
So you were still in the New York Police Department when the whole stop and frisk and question was going on.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I mean, you said it wrong, but I'm not going mad at you. Hold on.
Tell me the correct way.
It's stop, question, and frisk. But thank you. You are the first person, and I gave you praise. You are the first person to get it right. Everyone always say stop, frisk, stop, and frisk. They always forget the question part. That's the part. That's where the money's made. That's where you make. That's where you bake the bread. Oh, yeah? You know what I'm saying? The question part. It's not stop and frisk. It's stop, question, and frisk.
Stop, question.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So thank you for that.
No, thank you for the correction. Also.
No. I'm just pulling your leg, but at least you said it. You know what I'm saying?
As
Thank
a
you.
retired police officer, I want to
Yes.
hear your definition of what stop, question, and frisk is.
Well, it's not my definition. The department definition is, you have to have reasonable suspicion to you have to have reasonable suspicion to stop an individual. Usually it's in a high crime location. CompStat, have you heard of CompStat? That's what that CompStat is the program that the police department uses to determine where the high crime areas are. Okay. So what they do is, so that's why they make arrests. They put it in a computer. They say, okay, this section of Queens, we have a spike in robberies. In this section in the Bronx, we have a spike of burglaries. In this section of Brooklyn, we have a spike of graffiti. So that's what CompStat uses to adjust where to concentrate patrol. So let's take the Bronx. Let's say.
So I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
So then you are saying that there are areas that were targeted under the stop and question and frisk.
Well, all police department policies, there's areas targeted, but it's not a bad thing. Okay. It's not a bad thing. I mean, if you see a spike in robberies, let me ask you this question: you see a spike in robberies in this neighborhood, as a resident of that neighborhood, wouldn't you want the police to address it?
Of course.
Okay, so there you go. All right, so there you go. So yes, I don't. Yeah, the police department does target areas based on the stats, CompStat.
Okay. Stats. Okay.
So
one way.
Right. So stop, question, frisk. So it is like, okay, so let's use drugs because that's common. Drugs and guns go with drugs. Drug dealers have guns. Mm-hmm. I don't think you need to be rocket science to figure it out. No doubt. So guns, drugs, guns. That's how cops think, and that's and rightfully so. So you have a high prone drug location. So obviously you think there's going to be a gun there because he's, like you said, protecting his money. So you stop the guy. Why are you here? Oh, I live over here. Oh, you live over here? Let me see some ID.
Hold up. Why you gotta say it? Why you gotta ask for ID? What crime did I commit? Why I have to give you ID?
Because you ain't asked me all that.
No,
you ain't asked me all that. You know what I'm saying?
Why? Because what if I give you my ID? You know I didn't do nothing. I just give it to you because you asked. Here, you find something. Then what?
Well, then you okay? All right. Well, let me say this. Let me put it this way. It is a misdemeanor in New York State not to carry ID.
Cool. But
so if you don't have ID, you are in violation of New York State penal law.
I have mine.
Okay, that's what's up. Okay, you don't have to give it to me. Yeah. Okay.
I know I know right there. It's a tension that starts happening. Like yada yada yada.
Well, you don't have to give me. You don't have to give it to him. No,
you don't. I know that. But I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people are a little gully.
You don't have to get. Unless of course the police officer is able to articulate something that raises it to reasonable suspicion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if I have, so there are levels. So it's reasonable. It's I forget the small one. There's it's reasonable. I forget this. It's reasonable something, and I apologize for. Okay. It's been a minute.
Been a while.
But it goes to reasonable suspicion, then it goes to probable cause. Probable cause is, if I got probable cause, you going. That's it. But if I have reasonable suspicion, I have the right to question you. But I have to find whether or not my reasonable suspicion is valid. So okay, let me back it up. A little bit. Okay, so now you're in a drug-prone location. I've observed you're standing on a corner for an unreasonable.
It's on my phone in a few hours.
She was talking about stop, question, frisk, how it works.
Okay.
I'm trying to answer that question.
Okay.
So I observe you standing on the corner for an unreasonable amount of time, and you have a bulge in your pocket.
A what in my pocket?
A bulge.
Okay.
Or you're making furtive movements.
Got you. Okay.
You're making furtive movements. You're making twitchy movements. Because the thing is, I'm going to share with you the secret to police work right here. I'm going to share to you what makes good cops great.
Tune in.
You know what I'm saying? It is not being able to spot a crime. It's the ability to define what's normal. And I'm going to tell you. Yeah. Because if you know what's normal, then abnormal jumps out at you. And this is the thing that I don't understand. People, why are you harassing me? Why are you? This is the thing I don't understand. Me and my partner, we're on roll calls. Let's say 4 to 12. Because I did 4 to 12.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question? I know I have ADD, so sometimes I kind of ramble. You know what I'm saying? So you got to draw me back in. All right. So me and my partner, we're on roll call, 4 to 12 roll call, and we get bad news because every roll call is bad news. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you know, you can't wear white socks. Oh, you need to polish your shoes. Oh, you can't use that. So now we're hungry because we left the house without eating. So now me and my partner driving. We're trying to get to food before the radio starts blasting. Okay. And we drive down the block, and a bunch of homeboys, and we're not on camera. So, but they're like this. You know, they stop moving. They stop. Okay. I mean, it's like they stop. So it's like people in the Bronx have disdain for the police. I mean, where they spit at you and all that. So when they freeze, he's like, wait a minute. That's not normal. So then you pull over and you're like, what are you doing? Reasonable suspicion, right? I have reasonable suspicion. Now it's my stop question. Dude, I'm on my way to get some coffee and donuts. I'm not here to harass you. Trust me. Why are you harassing? Why I'm harassing you? Stupid. Because you a knucklehead. I'm here. You doing knucklehead stuff. What I'm supposed to do? I'm supposed to walk by?
Because the person froze?
Well,
the person could be scared of y'all.
The whole group?
I don't know about the whole group.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Again, I mean, so the whole everybody froze. Everybody stop moving. Everybody stop talking. Usually, it's like when people don't do nothing and 5-0 and the RMP goes by, they, you get the finger to burn, whatever. You know, they don't freeze. Yeah, so if a bunch of 5 guys standing on the corner and they freeze and you drop by, you're like, wait a minute, something's going on over there. You know, sometimes they shoot dice. You know, something like that. I was like, you know, so let me put down a, CeeLo or whatever, so.
They probably got a drink in their hand.
Whatever, if it's summertime. So, anyway, I'm sorry. Let's get back to, I'm sorry, bring it back.
Going back to stop question first.
Did I not answer that?
No,
I'm sorry.
You did.
Because I tried.
No, you did.
Because I tried to skirt that.
It's just another question.
Yeah.
Personally, me, growing up, born and raised in the Bronx.
Me too.
Well, so there you go. I think we could get answers to this. With that, is there any connection to racial profiling?
That's too broad a question.
Well,
narrow that.
Okay.
Narrow.
I was looking at some statistics, and for the majority of it, I think I don't want to just throw a crazy number up there, but more than half of these detainments under the Stop Question First were targeted mostly toward African American and Hispanics.
Okay.
What can you say about that?
I can't speak to that. Only what I observe. I can't speak to the numbers because I was not privy to those, but I do know that 53% of the population of New York is Hispanic, and I think 20% of the population is African American. So if you have 70% of the population is of one or two groups, then obviously the crimes are going to be committed. If you look at the crime stats, and I did before I came here, most of the crimes committed against African Americans are committed by other African Americans. I mean, and without opening, a can of worms here, I mean, the number of crimes committed by police against the population is minuscule when you do the numbers. So to answer your question, I'm going to help you out because I like you, you know what I'm saying? So the racial profiling is, I'm going to go with sure, and I've done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now I'm going to tell you how I did it. So because you just make an assumption. I'm going to tell you I did it because, now I'm about to tell you where I work, so anybody that knows the Bronx is going to figure it out. So there is a bridge on 181st Street. Right? On the university.
The Washington Bridge. Okay.
Correct. That's it. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. That's you absolutely, I like you, man. That's the Washington Bridge. And the Washington Bridge leads to the George Washington Bridge.
Yeah, yes.
Right? And what's on the other side of George Washington Bridge?
New Jersey.
Boom. All right? So follow me on this, right? So now, if you know the architecture of the Bronx, or the way the streets are constructed, you know that all of those buildings off a university are, I don't know what the term is, but they're not through streets. They're feeder streets. So if you turn down a street, right, it's not a throughway. So you turn down those streets, Davison and all of those streets. They lead. They push you all the way down to Webster,
Shakespeare,
to Jerome.
Jerome.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you don't go through those streets. You go into those blocks.
Okay.
So a reasonable person will believe that if you're in this block, you're in this block for a reason. right?
Okay.
Are you following that? So that's two,
following.
right?
I'm following.
So this is how you build reasonable suspicion. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You got Jersey plates. You 21-year-old white on Davidson Avenue at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yes, I just racially profiled you because guess what you're doing? You're going there to buy drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the answer to your question. So yes, I've done racial profiling, and it was a white guy. Okay. So.
I want to answer something about the stop and frisk.
Sure.
Stop questioning frisk.
Yes, thank you. Because I wasn't going to answer the other one.
With the racial profiling thing, if they don't have any probable cause, if they don't have, you think like
such an ugly word.
Their number one reason, I feel like the number one thing they use to try to arrest someone or try to look up their name by asking for their ID is when they say you fit the description.
But that's true.
It's that no, but is it possible?
Let me walk you.
Is it possible that sometimes they make that up by just looking at you like, oh yeah,
no,
you got a black hat, you got a black, yeah,
no.
Why not?
Because I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because when you get a radio run, when you listen to the radio, I mean, the cops are slaved. You're slave to the radio. I mean, you have to answer the radio. So, and I've done this, and the thing is, you know, cops need. I will admit the cops probably need a little bit more sensitivity training. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. You know, being a black man, born and raised in the Bronx, so I had a certain sensitivity already built in. So I took some of the negative experiences I had with the police into the job to make sure that, like my friend said, I changed what comes from within. So that being said, when the job comes over, it comes over literally male Hispanic, blue jeans, black hat. That's every male Hispanic in the Bronx.
Yes, pretty much.
That's every male Hispanic. It doesn't come over John Doe, lives at 123 Sesame Street, apartment 4C. The jobs don't come over like that. They come over because when think about it, when you knock an old lady down and steal her pocketbook, all she saw was a male Hispanic, blue jeans, black hat. That's on this corner. Mm-hmm. So now I have a job. So that's reasonable suspicion right there. Mm-hmm. So at that point, when I have reasonable suspicion, I can ask you for your ID. Why are you here? Why are you standing here? Because you fit the description of somebody who just committed a crime. So would you rather me let you go? What if it's your grandma? Would you rather me not? I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't. Okay, I don't know who said it. I'm saying, but you can't be safe and free. You have to be one or the other. You can't live in a free society and be safe at the same time. You have to choose one or the other. You have to either choose to be free or you have to choose to be safe. You can't have both. It just doesn't exist. Because in order for you to be safe, you need a strong police force, which sometimes compromises some of your civil liberties. I'm not saying I'm a proponent of that, but what I'm saying is people understand this is a free country. I know my rights. Nah, well, if it's a free country, then call the fire department the next time somebody hits you over the head and steal your pocketbook. Then call the fire department. Don't call the police department. Call sanitation. Mm-hmm. And that's just Thomas' personal opinion. So you can't be free and safe. You have to be one or the other. Mm-hmm. And that's the part. The people want them both, and you can't have both. You can't. I'm not a scholar, and I know that.
Thomas, so question.
What's up?
What year exactly did you get into the NYPD?
1995.
Okay. So what difference do you notice from the 90s to close to when you retired?
Oh, the job sucks. Ask any cop, they'll tell you the same thing. The job sucks. This job sucks. Well, when I was a rookie, the old timers would say, yeah, the job sucks now. And now when I was an old timer, I told the rookies, yeah, the job sucks now. And the rookies would tell you now, yeah, the job sucks now. I think, and this is my opinion, I mean, I can't speak the fact, but you ask me my opinion, I'll share it. It goes back to what I said about free. I mean, you guys, and I say you guys because you don't know how bad the 80s were. Mm. The 80s sucked. Everybody was getting bopped over the head. Crack was the crack epidemic. Giuliani, well, more like Bratton because I'm not a Giuliani guy. But they came in with this program and they cleaned up the streets. Now the problem is, it is a statistically proven fact that only 3% of the population commit all the crimes. But once you lock that 3% up, how do you get your numbers? So I know it didn't answer the question, but it bleeds into the politics of why the arrest, because I'm sure you want to ask that question at some point. But what's changed about the job is that the police department doesn't have is scrutinized to the point where they're not allowed to do their jobs. They're just not. I mean, they're not. You know, when I was a little heavy-handed when I came on the job. You know, by the time I left the job, I was no longer heavy-handed. You know, I was just a little bit. I was a little heavy-handed. You know, maybe a guy slipped and fell. You know what I'm saying?
You grew up in the Bronx.
Yes.
You were stationed in the Bronx too, right?
Correct.
Which you said it was rare. Usually they don't do that.
Correct.
Right. How did your friends you grew up around?
Oh, dude,
how they feel about you and your new
career
and
funny thing again, because you really have to educate your family and your friends. When I got on the job, and I used to go to the house parties. They still have house parties now? No, not so much. Yeah.
It's more like get-togethers.
Yeah.
Well, okay, whatever you want to call them. But back when I was your age, you know, it was so I would go back to the neighborhood, and at parties. So my boy would introduce me. Oh, this is Thomas. He's a cop. This is Thomas. He's a cop. And then it got to the point where I had to pull my boy to the side and say, "Yo, dude, what are you doing?" I said, "Yo, well, I don't want you to, I introduce you as a cop because I don't want you, if you see something, because he was a heavy weed smoker, you know, and if you see something, I want you to have to make an arrest." I said, "Brother, you got that backwards. You telling everybody here who I am, and I don't know who nobody is. So what you doing? You put me in danger. You put me in danger because you're telling everybody who I am. And trust me, brother, I'm not here. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to drink a bud. I'm here to pick up a shorty. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to arrest nobody. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So my thing is this. You don't have to. In fact, you should protect me and because I'm not going to do anything. And if it ever got to the point where I needed to, I felt that I was uncomfortable, I would just leave. I wouldn't make an arrest." And he was like, "Okay, true that." And it's funny you should mention that, because when that happened, that put me in a mindset of, I'm gonna have to do this all the time. I'm gonna do this all the time. I have to put my friends on, and some of your friends stop being your friends.
Stop being your friend.
And some of your friends,
like some sort of pride.
I don't know why, but they just kind of move away. Boom.
Yeah, simple as that.
It could be some of that. I've lost a few friends. I lost a few friends when I came, but I gained a lot of good friends. Is what it is.
Okay.
Did you have a hard time separating your professional life, like we're talking about it now? Like, did you find yourself in situations where being a police officer, I mean, you did talk about being around your friends and so, but are there any more stories that you can go back on?
Man, I got a ton of them. I'm not sure what you're asking me.
Well, just any situation where, obviously you're known as the cop whatsoever, and you felt yourself.
Were you talking like on duty or off duty?
Off duty.
No. I meant to say no would be inaccurate, but at the same time, you learn to start looking at things differently. So you learn to start, so you develop sixth sense, and alluding to like the party situation, like this is getting a little shady, so let me move. So yes, so it has affected me in that way, socially. I remember one time I was driving my kids to work or somewhere, and they said, "Daddy, there's somebody, somebody needs help." I was like, "What? No, I don't see nothing." You know what I'm saying? I'm out of here.
Ostrich syndrome.
You know what I'm saying? Because and I don't want to. The right thing for me to do, I was supposed to stop and call 911. They don't want you to take police action, but I had the kids in the car, and I wasn't putting them in that situation. So.
Okay. At the beginning of the show, we spoke about your reason behind joining the NYPD.
Sure.
Apart from the reason that we spoke about earlier, did you also join to serve the community? And if so, how did you think that you were? No,
I didn't know. Civic duty was not. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't at the forefront, man. I okay. As I said, the '80s were bad. and I can neither confirm or deny that I used to carry in the 80s. I'm not going to confirm or deny. But something told me that if I'm going to carry, I might as well do it legal. You know, so it was more like and to be honest with you, you know, it was more self-preservation, because I grew up, I got a wood shampoo a couple times, you know what I'm saying, and I knew that if I was on the right team, then I wouldn't have to suffer some of the indignities that I saw my friends go through, you know, in the Bronx. I mean, it was a matter of self-preservation more than civic pride. That's just honest.
So you went ahead and joined them?
Hey, if you can't beat them, right? You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask you a question about why you joined personally?
Sure.
So did you become a cop to intentionally make a change? Because we all know the police force, how do you call it? Police academy, what they say nowadays?
Department,
police department.
We
don't know it's not.
Like the fire department.
We don't have to get into
you like firemen, right? You like sanitation workers, right? You know what I'm saying? You don't
have to dig in too deep with this, but we all know it's corrupted. But all right, let's get. I'm just saying, yes.
What's corrupted?
Right, the police department.
No. Let's not go there.
But
no. The police department is not corrupt. Let's stop. No.
Listen.
No, don't listen.
That's a different conversation for another time.
Let's have it now. That's why I'm here.
The police department?
First of all, no.
Let me ask my question.
Let me explain you something. You know what I'm saying? I know I cut you off because you disrespected my boys. You know what I'm saying? Listen, the fire department is more corrupt than the police department. So don't give me that. I mean, don't get me started. They're burglars. You know what I'm saying? But but we're not here to talk about.
We're not.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if a police officer took a free cup of coffee, he's subject to get dismissed. He's subject to dismissal. When I came on the job, they told us if you take a free cup of coffee, you're gonna get fired.
You're gonna get fired.
So don't tell me about corrupt.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Because my question.
Well, you need to change your question.
Did you become a cop to make a change for the community, make the kind of department make it better?
I told you, or it was self-preservation.
Or did you just get it? Did you just join the cops? Just to be a cop, get the benefits, get good pay.
It was self-preservation, but I will share a story with you. It was my first day in plainclothes. It was my first day in plainclothes, and I didn't know what I was doing. I am not gonna lie. I mean, I was like, can I finish? I'm trying to answer your question.
Yeah.
Can I answer your question?
Okay.
All right. So thank you. So it was my first day in plainclothes, and they stuck me with a white guy, right? And I didn't know what I was doing. So there was a bunch of Jamaicans in a van that went by, right? So, and he said, okay, let's go. So he was driving. So we pulled him over. We pull him out of the car, throw him on the wall. And he turned around, and I'm standing there. I got my gun in my hand. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? And he looked at me. He turned around and said, "You good with this?" And I was like, "Yeah." So then he did what he did. You know what I'm saying? And then he let him, and they didn't have nothing. He let him go. What he told me was there was a Jamaican gang that had control of the block, drug connects, and they just got out. So he wanted to make sure that these guys wasn't, because they were doing retaliation hits. So he wanted to make sure that these guys, because we followed them and they went on the block where the drug thing. So that's when he stopped and pulled them over. So so again, as a black man, I'm always black, you know. And somebody said, you know, why? And I joke because I'm black. I say that all the time because I'm black. You know what I'm saying? So I had one guy try to call me, and I said, why you always say that? Because I am. I wake up every day. I'm black. So when I go to the job, I'm a black cop. You know what I'm saying? When I'm in the street, I'm a black cop. I'm not a cop. I'm a black cop. You know what I'm saying? So I have to judge everything from that lens. You know. So I didn't join to affect change, but I wasn't going to let anything happen in front of me. So that's all I could do. I was not there to be Dr. King, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't allow any fugazi shit. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I didn't allow for any fugazi stuff to go on in my presence. In your presence. And I apologize for that slip but that's how it hit me, because I had to be. I was a watchdog because, you know, when I got on the job, the white guys were like, "Why are you here?" And when I was in the street, the brothers and the Hispanics were like, "Why you sell out?" So I got it from both ways. So I was like, whatever.
So you felt pressure
from both. Well, pressure is not the right word. But
you
yes,
felt like,
but yes, pressure. I guess pressure. But I didn't, because when you say pressure, I feel like, you know, maybe I was the weight. I didn't feel weight, but I did feel. But it did force me to. It forced me to find my voice. This is what it did. It forced me to find a voice, and I got to the point where I was like, look, I'm me. I'm here, and this is what I'm here to do. You know what I'm saying? If you want to work with me, that's up to you. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that question because I know being a cop, it's that you're taking on a big role. Like, you're supposed to serve the community. I'm not saying that I'm just saying this in general speaking.
Right.
So when someone becomes a cop, I just feel like, oh man, this is something that you're protecting people, you're protecting civilians.
Sure.
So that's why I asked that question, you know, to see if you really wanted to make a choice. You just being a cop just to be a cop. I know personally cops that have joined the force just because they can reap the benefits, and because it's easy, and it's just another way out because they ain't have no other career choice or any kind of.
Listen,
they just say, no, I'm gonna be a cop. It's like it's not easy. But they knew they could do it. It's like, all I need is 60 credits. Let me just join the force. I'll be good.
I'm not gonna lie. There's a large part of that in me. I mean, I'm here now because of that. I mean, you know, this police department is 20 and out. If I stayed, I told you I was a conductor. If I stayed a conductor, I'd still be working. You know, and I worked there for 9 years before I went to the police department. So I'd still be working because it's a different pension. Yeah, I jump ship. Because I want to be young enough. I want to go climb the Swiss Alps, bro. You know what I'm saying? Without a broken back. You know what I'm saying? You guys got to work to 75. I pity you guys. You know what I'm saying? Do my 20 and I'm out. I'm going to climb the Swiss Alps.
Gotcha. You know? So I have a question here from our fellow students.
Oh, okay. What's up?
Which crimes do you hate having to arrest or cite people for? And conversely, what do you think is an underappreciated but dire criminals scourge on society today? I don't know if you understood that.
Okay.
Which crimes
let's go with the first question.
Or cite people for?
What crime did I hate? Okay.
Do you hate having to arrest or cite people for? Yeah.
Well, the key word in there is crime. So if you're a criminal, I have no problem arresting you. Okay. So I mean, if you committed a crime, and I determine whether or not you're going to get locked up, you're getting locked up. So I don't have a problem with that. Now, I think what the question maybe is, you know, did I have a particular issue with making any particular arrest? But I think I answered that earlier. Excuse me. Okay. But no, crimes are crimes, you know. And but there are certain situations like the situation I shared with you about the clean halls. Right. I wouldn't have done that, and I probably would have lost my detail, but I wouldn't have done it. And I wouldn't have made the arrest because I mean, you can go too far. Gotcha. To me.
Do you have any regrets about being a cop? Like a regret, like maybe not being able to choose a different career choice? Like
not one.
Like not one regret.
Not one regret.
Love being a cop.
I won't say that.
You hold it to your highest honor.
I won't say that. I won't say I loved it. I had fun, man.
You didn't have another dream,
fun.
Or so to speak, or
yeah, I wanted to play center field for the New York Yankees, but that wasn't happening.
That was not so. Okay.
I mean, but you know, I know you asked me off air when we started. You know, I spent 25 years in the Army.
In 5 years.
And I guess.
Thanks for your service, by the way.
I appreciate that. Thank you, brother. I identify myself as, if you ask me who I more identify with, I identify myself more as a soldier than I do as a police officer. Okay. You know, because
more meaningful.
I mean, yeah, it's a bigger stage. You know, I mean, because it's global.
What's the reason behind that?
Because the discipline and the regimentation that you have to have to serve in the military is a lot more. Like I said, regiment. The Army is more regiment and more structured than the police department. You know, the police department is a pseudo, a quasi-military operation, not a real one. So I mean, I like the fact that, you know, on Monday morning you get up and your boss, the Army, your boss tells you, okay, here's a list of things I need done by Friday. I need this by Tuesday. I need this by Wednesday. I need this by Thursday. See you Friday. They respect you as a man. They respect you as your rank. They afford you the proper courtesies and respect as your rank, and you move forward. You drive forward, and then everybody come, and then you don't leave until the mission is done. You know, I mean, because the Army, you don't get basically Army salary. You're not paid hourly, so there's no overtime. So you stay till the mission's done, and you work as a team. And the police department can be cliquish. I mean, if you know this guy, then you're going to get this detail, and then it goes back to what you said about earlier. So you might get this guy. I might have more arrests. I may have more summons. I may have all these things, but he's going to get the detail because he's cool with the sergeant. So that doesn't happen in the Army. That doesn't happen in the Army.
Okay.
I'm not saying it doesn't, but I mean the Army, the police department is all about who you know.
Just like anything else in life, right?
Well, even more so, because like if there are 10 openings at a specific detail, 9 of them is going to get a phone call. 9 guys that got in is going to get a phone call from some chief
recommendation.
Or some, no. Those are no. Chief is going to call and say, that's my cousin or that's my wife's nephew. Put him in that spot. Okay, there you go.
Oh, wow.
Boom.
That's it. Can't do nothing.
So now, regrets is the wrong word, but bitter? Yeah, I could be a little. I can share some bitterness about but you know what I'm saying. But it is what it is. But in all fairness, the last detail I had was great, and it was because, wait for it, the inspector that gave me the detail was a rookie with me.
Oh,
so I finally came back.
That's what's up.
But it's not that I didn't, and I did my job, and not that I didn't earn it. Trust me, I pay my bones. I made my bones.
Right.
I made my bones. I got passed over. I got passed over a few times, but it's okay. It comes with the territory, and I get it.
Gotcha.
Thomas, what is the hardest decision you had to make while on duty, and if you recall a situation where your life was put at risk?
Well, I don't want to answer that question with cliche. Every day is a risk. But cops are like everybody else, and you have knucklehead guys. And there was one guy. I worked with one guy, and in police department, you pick your own partner.
Okay.
So yeah, you pick your own partner. So, but what happens is sometimes your partner goes on vacation, or your partner calls in sick. So you have to work with someone that you don't normally work with. So this was one of those times. My partner was out and his partner was out, but he had more time than me, so he was driving. So he pulled up to a van, right? So the van was on the curb, and he pulled up, right next to the van, to the point where I wouldn't be able to open the door. He wouldn't be able to open the door. So I'm sitting there at the time I'm recording. So there's the driver and there's a recorder. The recorder writes down all the information for the other jobs. So I'm filling out my memo book. And he has to, because it's a van, he has to stretch his head over my chest so he can look up into the guy he's talking to the van, right? So I'm sitting back while he's having this conversation. I'm thinking it's just, hey, how you doing, blah, blah. So I'm writing in my book, and I look down, he's got his gun out, right? So he's got his gun in his lap, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Right? So then he finished the conversation, and we pulled off, and I said, dude, what was that about? Oh, because I just, and it's funny because I had just swung in, so it was my first day back from my days off.
Okay.
And he said, they put out a bolo alert on a white van, who had done some robbery. And I thought that might have been the guy. I said, so then why would you put me right next to the guy? You didn't even tell me. So I'm saying this because if things would have went sour, who would have got shot in the face? Me.
You can't get out.
You know what I'm saying? I couldn't get to my gun or nothing like that. So yeah. So it was at that point where I decided that I need to find details where I could work alone. So then I ended up moving. I explored that option, and I got off. When I got off patrol, all the details I worked by myself with no partners.
By yourself, okay.
With no partners, because I got to trust my life with this guy. What was the first question? That was the second question. What was the first one?
What is the hardest decision you had to make while on duty?
That's a really good question. The hardest decision you got to make on duty is not to shoot somebody. I must have drawn my gun 200 times, maybe more, and that's just because I've never fired it.
Oh, you never let one off?
Nah, not in anger. No, at the range, yeah. So I shoot 100, by the way, so be careful.
All right.
So just so you know. All right, but no. So not to pull the trigger. There was one time. I'm really proud of this, actually, believe it or not. It was one time, it was summer, and we were on Webster Avenue, and the guy was cracked out. He was cracked out, and he had just assaulted his girlfriend or something. He had blood. He had blood on him, and he had a machete, and he was topless. And I was the first guy on the scene, and I was on foot, so I was by myself. So I was on foot.
Okay.
So and I rolled up on him, and he was just screaming at the top of his lungs. So I had my gun out, and I was about to light him up. And then all the sector cars came, because obviously the radio. So it was like, so it must have been about 8 cars easily. And my lieutenant was like, he called me by my name. He said, Thomas, step back. Thomas, step back. And I knew he was telling me to step back because he was gonna light him up. And I was like, boss, I got it. So I holstered my gun. I talked him down. I got the machete out of the thing, the needle. I got it. So yeah, I talked him down. And
negotiated.
So I got but that's the skill. So I talked him down. I got the machete and I got the crack vial out of his pocket. And he went to and he, I was not an arrest guy. I did not like arresting people and go to yes. And I know I kind of sidestep your question. I was not an arrest guy. Arrest didn't drive me. Helping the people drive me. If I could figure out a way not to arrest you, I would. That's why my arrest count was so low.
You was one of the cool cops.
That doesn't make me cool. I just didn't want to. I just want to do the paperwork. I just want to do the paperwork. I mean, so I would. Now, don't get me wrong. If I needed one for the month, I would articulate it, because that's what when I said give me 20 minutes, I'll find something. The same way. It's the same way. It goes both ways. I mean, I can either talk it down or I can talk it up. Classic example. People don't understand. A lot of times, people don't understand that each incident is separate onto itself. And what I mean by that, you roll up on a typical job. You roll up on a job, it's a fight. Right? You roll up on a job, it's a fight. And for whatever the reason, everybody wants to think that the reason that they enter the fight gives them justification. Like, and I have to tell you, the Bronx is full of machismo guys. He was talking to my girl, so I decked him. He's sleeping with my girl, so I decked him. Right? So now, if I was in a mood to make an arrest, I would roll up, put perp 1, you put your hands behind your back. Perp 2, you put your hands behind your back. Let's go. But if I'm not in the mood to make an arrest, I roll up and say, hey, bro, let me holler at you. What happened? Well, he hit me. I said, okay. I said, well, he hit you, right? I said, okay. And so then you hit him back. I said, yeah, okay. This is what's going to happen. I want to press charges because he slept with my wife. I said, well, sleeping with your wife is not a crime. However, you punched him. That's a crime. So, but he punched you back. So I arrest you for you punching him, and guess what? He gets and I arrest him for punching you. Did I say that right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's 2 different incidents. Okay. It's not one. It's not. People think that back in 1947, no, it's not. You break it out into whatever it is. You punched him. That's one crime.
There's one assault. Yeah.
And then he punched you. Boom. That's another one. That's 2 separate crimes, 2 separate arrest reports. Guess what? I get 2 arrest numbers for that. I'm golden. I'm good for the month. I'm good for 2 months now.
But can one of them, like the second, the one you said the second, but he punched you too. Can it be self-defense? I mean, it can go.
Well, that's not for me, because then now we go into.
That's for him and his lawyers to figure out.
Yeah.
That's court, right? Mm-hmm. Because right. So my job starts at probable cause. Yeah. As soon as I establish probable cause, you're arrested. Courts decide reasonable suspicion.
It's a decision. Like
reasonable doubt. Beyond reasonable doubt.
No, okay.
Or preponderance of the evidence is next, and then reasonable doubt is the next one. That's not my. As long as all I care about probable cause. I get probable cause, you good to go. If I don't have probable cause, then I'll let you go. I'm not trying to I gotta go home and cook for the kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to lock nobody up. I got spaghetti to make.
So it's like a common thing now, unfortunately, that you turn on the TV and you see these news stories about cops shooting kids. Sure. And most of them are minority. Sure. Or all that we hear is minority. For your experience, and do you have anything to say as the training that, like, are police officers trained properly, or does that also, well, is it like judgment? Like, what exactly goes into, and what is your take on what you see today on the news with cops shooting innocent people?
Well, I can only speak to NYPD. Some of the cases that you are referring to are from other police departments. Yeah. So I don't know what the level of training that they receive. And this may sound biased, but I think the NYPD is one of the best trained police departments in the world, not the country, in the world. You know, Germany. I think Germany's police is better, and I think maybe Scotland Yard might be better. And that's just me, but NYPD is there, is up there. And I do, as I said earlier, I think that sensitivity, maybe NYPD needs a little bit more, cops need to be a little bit more sensitive, you know, to cultural awareness kind of thing. Yes. So if you get, I mean, because one of the big things, I worked in the Bronx, and if you worked in the Bronx, in a certain section of the Bronx, you know there's no air conditioning. So, you know, on the hot, sweltering days, you know, there are people on the stoop with their red cups, right? With their red cups, solo cups, playing dominoes. Now, New York State penal law says no open containers. You can't, and you're clogging the street, because now you're sitting on milk crates or whatever you got, you know, and then you're playing dominoes. Yeah. So you are violating some statute in New York City. Violating some law, that's a fact. So now, I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up playing dominoes. To me, that's part of the thing. I would keep it moving. But if you get a commanding officer of the precinct whose numbers aren't good for that month, he's going to send us out there to lock up. So maybe that's the question. I've been ordered to participate in certain raids, but I was able to finagle a way out not to be the arresting officer. I mean, I did that. That took work. That took a skill. Not to arrest people is a bigger skill than to arrest people. It's because think about your homework, right? Sometimes it's just easier to do your homework than to make an excuse not to do your homework, right? Yeah. So locking people up is the easy part. Not locking people up is the hard part.
As far as police probably betterment in how they arrest people and doing the right judgment calls. Sure. How do you feel about the body cams? I think that's a step forward.
You know what? Body cams came into play after I retired.
Yeah, just recent, very recent.
Right. So the jury's still out. I mean, I listened. I still have friends on the job, and they don't have an opinion one way or the other. In theory, I would think that it would help, because I mean, how many times, like on World Star, that's still a thing, World Star. Yeah. Cool. You know, so all you see is the cop. You know what I'm saying? You don't see what happened before. So that's what the body cams are going to do. They're going to show you the before. They're show you all that. So I would hope, but I will share this with you. You know, I was at one of the last details I was on, the Yankee Stadium detail. That's a good detail. That's sweet.
Yankee, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm a Met fan, so I don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? But I care. But it's good. But a lot of overtime.
Okay, yeah, that's a good reason.
Not a lot of work. So just.
Gotcha.
So I was on my post, and the bus came. I think it was the 12 bus, and you know how it says 911, right? You know, sometimes they can put 911. So I'm across the street, and the bus driver's like, he waves to me, right? And I said, "What's up?" And he said, it was one of the accordion buses, right? Oh. So the guy was in the back. It was 12 people on the bus, and the guy was in the back, stressed out, smoking weed. Oh. And he said, "You'll handle that." So it was like 12 people on the bus. So it was and I mean 12 passengers on the bus. So as I started walking back to deal with the thing, the other 11 passengers all whipped out their camera phones, and this was like, and I
just
looked,
in case,
and I looked, and I said to myself, it's time for me to go. Because back in the 90s, I would have handled that a little different. And I'll just leave it at that. So I kindly asked him to stop smoking marijuana, I politely escorted him off the bus. If this was the 90s, it would have been a little different story. It would have been a little different.
So a camera and all that stuff helps us.
Sure. You know what?
I mean,
let's go with that. Let's go with that.
It exposes a lot that wasn't exposed back.
But 100%. And again, you know, and
civilians.
Guys, I'm really surprised, man. You didn't ask me about Gardner. You didn't ask me about, you know, brutality. You know, you didn't ask me about. You didn't ask me about any of that stuff.
Police brutality. That was kind of my.
Well, why would you save it for the end? Because you thought I was going to walk out, right?
Police brutality. Since you mentioned that police brutality, you think it was worse before?
So why am I doing your work for you? You know,
no.
Why am I doing your work?
It really was.
Well, let me see your next question. All right, let me see. Okay, all right, you got it. All right, no worries.
Police brutality was it worse before in your opinion, or is it?
Well, first of all, I don't believe in police brutality. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I will use the minimum amount of force necessary to effect arrest. So, and I don't understand where people get this notion where police officers have to fight fair. I don't get that. You know what I'm saying? If I have to pick up that chair and hit you over the head with it to get you to comply, that's what I'm going to do, because that's the minimum amount of force I need to make you comply. That's nothing brutal about that.
So you don't think that some cops over abuse their power because they have a badge? And
okay, well, they can, but that's who brought a statement. So give me an example. I mean, like, that's too. I mean,
brutality.
Just
okay, brutality. Like this, for an example, and this happened many times. You can see it. You could go on YouTube right now and just find a bunch of videos where a guy does something minimal, like probably have I don't know, a stick or something, and it seems like they might do something with it.
Okay.
And then the cop says, "All right, you know what? This is my opportunity to not prove a point, but kind of like."
You have reasonable suspicion. You just gave me reasonable suspicion. You just gave me reasonable suspicion. Now you're going to modify it.
Hold on, we haven't got there.
Okay, now you're going to modify it. I already have reasonable suspicion to stop you.
So the cop says, okay, boom, now I'm going to beat you because I have a reason to, but now some cops overdo it.
What? That's in your opinion. No, that's your opinion, because what I'm saying is you comply. If the minute you stop using force against me, then I'm going to stop using force against you. Again, I said it before. I mean, see, I think you're one of them. You are under the assumption that I have to fight fair. I don't get paid to fight fair. I get paid to win. So if you are being violent, I am going to be more violent than you, because I have to bring you under control. It's not about fighting fair.
Not about fair.
So if you have a stick, if you have and depend on that stick, I'm going to shoot you, depending on what you're doing with that stick, depending on how heavy, because I am authorized, because the stick, depending on what it is a dangerous instrument. If you are wielding a dangerous instrument, I am authorized to use lethal force.
Okay.
So it's not a bad.
No, it was a bad example.
Yeah, it was.
It was because
it was. You walked right into. You just walked right into my trap, baby. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
Well, I'm gonna bring up another one.
So go ahead, let you go. Come on, you bring it, because your partner's he's sinking your ship. Yeah, come on now.
Not long ago, social media, a video started surfacing of a woman that was, I think, in a welfare office, and she was sitting down on the floor.
That's all.
And it was something about, I guess, the police officer asked her to get up from the floor.
Yeah.
I think that was the story. And I don't know if it was that she refused to get up from the floor, and then there was actual, like, physical altercation between the police officer and the woman.
Okay, all right. So now, okay, I'm going to give you the standard answer. And your professor knows, he knows what I'm about to say. I never question another cop's tactics. Let me just go with that, because I'm not there, so I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what the reason is, but let me just say it this way. Again, like I said, I don't get paid to fight fair. I get paid to win. But at the same time, I can't. Once the police are involved and engaged, they can't walk away. You can't do it. So once a police officer is in your apartment, once a police officer is, at a scene of an incident, he has to take police action if it's deemed necessary. The police officer could not have walked away because that person was trespassing, because the person who was in charge of that building said that person's trespassing. You have to remove them. There's nothing I can do. It takes more effort, and it takes more physical effort not to hurt you than to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? So I think the optics were bad. But maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think she didn't go to the hospital. So obviously they didn't hurt her. You know what I'm saying?
They said something about she had a baby, I think.
Yes, she had a baby, but again, the baby, there was, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but there were no reports of anybody suffering any injury. So the optics were bad, but if he'd have pulled out his collapsible baton and hit her over the head and knocked her unconscious, that would have been 1, 2, 3 out the door, right? So it takes more effort. It takes more cops to restrain you. It takes more effort to restrain you than to actually subdue you. So again, the optics were bad in that situation, but I can't speak to the cops' tactics. As far as I'm not, if you'd have told me that she ended up in a hospital with a concussion and a broken tibia, then I'd be like, okay, you're good to go. But a cop grabbed somebody and pulled them out of a building because they were trespassing. Sorry, I can't. I'm gonna co-sign that every day.
Yeah, well, there's other examples. It's just.
But why do you prepare?
No. It's just
you should have brought.
Well,
I
actually have another one that was going around, but I don't believe it was the NYPD. So I'm not
probably
sure
wasn't,
if
you know what I'm saying, because we good guys.
Someone like incidents where someone's already handcuffed. That's it. Like you can't swing at me. You're already
That's
handcuffed.
100%.
And you're still hitting me.
Well, I don't know about me.
Me on the floor like.
Oh,
I'm arrested. I'm cuffed.
Have you been a victim of that certain situation?
No,
Have you observed that?
Observed, yes.
Okay, all right.
Observed, yes.
Yeah, so have I.
I can't. Maybe it's a rage thing. I mean, that's not every cop. I know that. I know it's not every cop.
It's the duty of your partner to stop you. That's his duty, because you're right. Sometimes I will tell you that there are only two incidents in my entire career where I lost it. I'm not going to go any further than that. I'm not going to go any further.
Can we hear about these?
No, I'm not going to go any further. But all I'm gonna say is, it was like whack, and then my partner was like, he was like, Thomas, what you doing? I was like, you right. you right. All right, let's go. Put him in the back.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna just leave it at that. You know, I was like, whack. And he was like, what are you doing? I was like, you right.
Oh man.
But it's the duty of your brethren to make sure that you don't cross the line. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. But trust me, he deserved it, y'all.
Do you feel like in that moment you let like personal issues?
Oh, 100%, because he pissed me off. Because no, I'm not gonna tell the story. No, I'm not gonna tell the story. But
I stopped that.
Well, I mean, male intox, I can't give a summons to. So a male intoxicated, you can't give a summons to someone intoxicated.
Or you gotta take him to the hospital, or call the bus or something.
Sure. Let's go with that. Yeah, let's go with that.
All right.
Yeah, bus, you know the terminology. Yeah, you call a bus. Yeah, okay.
SV.
All right, that's what's up. All right, man. So.
Anything you want to touch on that we have
Listen,
not?
I mean,
I have like 2 more questions.
Well, ask them.
So.
Ask them. I have no problem. I mean, I don't, because I'm just gonna sing a song praising NYPD. We shall overcome. Kumbaya. So you just give it to me. So ask your questions.
Okay, so I want to know your thoughts before joining the NYPD.
Oh, I hate
and how do you? Okay, you hate it.
100%.
And what could you say now from your experience?
Okay.
How did your idea shift from before and after?
Once I was sworn in, I realized that the enormous pressure that cops face, and the decisions that you make, because you have to understand that police officers can take away your civil liberties. The police officers are in charge with enforcing the law, and they will, on occasion, because anytime you get arrested, they're violating your civil rights. Whether or not, hopefully it's with probable cause that you committed a crime, but getting arrested by the state, being enforced in prison by the state is a violation of your civil rights, and I get that. So once you go through the academy and you realize that, wow, and I'm empowered to do things that no other there's no other element of society that is allowed to do this. And so I took great care of making sure I didn't violate that power.
Abuse that power.
Okay. All right, abuse. I took care. I took real good care in that I didn't do it. And again, but human, I mean, you wake up on a bad day, and obviously you work, and sometimes you work with knuckleheads. I mean, cops like anybody else. I mean, I'm sure you got knuckleheads on your job. Trust me, there's knuckleheads and NYPD. I mean,
it's humans, real human, different jobs.
That's what I'm saying, and that's the thing too. And I will share this story though, and it goes to the human aspect. At one point I was like a truant officer. So you guys are probably too young to remember this, but there's a target on I want to say. There's a target right over by the bridge. Yeah, the target right over the bridge.
Riverdale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
right by the Deegan, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went there when it first opened. I was there when it first opened, and I was in I was on my way. My girlfriend at the time lived in Inwood, so I was driving from the precinct, and she asked me to stop and get some milk. So I stopped and get some milk, and I was at the counter, and I saw a guy who worked at the school, and he called me by name, right?
Real name, okay.
And I was like, hey, and I was like, and he looked at me, and he said, what are you doing here? And I had the milk in my hand. I said, what do you mean what I'm doing here? And he said, you know what? And he started laughing. Said, you know what? I only ever see you in uniform. I never realized that you were a person. You know, and I forget what he said, and he didn't mean any disrespect by it, but what he meant was people see the uniform and then they expect a robotic, somebody that just disputes them at, what RoboCop, protect the innocent, serve the public, obey the law, that's what they expect when you're in uniform, and they forget that we're human. Sometimes they forget. And this was a good guy. I mean, it wasn't even a bad guy. So you know what I'm saying. So, and
is it true that there's only two cops, a bad cop, and a good cop, no in between? Either a good cop or bad cop.
Okay. I mean, we don't have enough time for me to expound on that, but yeah, I mean, bad guys do bad things. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they end up on NYPD. It just is what it is. I mean, guys, cops get locked up, and 7-5. Yeah, no, 7-5, the 7-5. Right. But IAB, no one wants to hear from them. But at the same time, man, nobody wants to work with a bad cop. No cop wants to work with a bad cop.
Denzel training day.
No one wants to work with Denzel. Nobody wants to deal with Denzel.
I hear that.
You don't want to work with that guy. You just don't.
All right.
So
to wrap things up.
Oh, sure.
It's more like a college question, right? So you're in college now.
Sure.
You're getting your bachelor's.
Correct.
Right. What's the plans after this? You're retired.
Oh, dude, I told you, man. I'm calling Swiss Ops, man. And,
what are you trying to do? What is the goal?
I don't have one at this point, man. To be honest with you, again, I had to get off the couch, man. I mean, PlayStation was just, it is what it is.
It's good. You're being productive.
I'm trying. Maybe it sounds like I'm bragging. I don't have to work another day in my life. I made sure that my money's good. I don't have to. So if I go to work, it's gonna be fun. So I don't know. I'm gonna find something. Okay. Maybe this. Maybe I'll take your seat. I don't know.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
You know what I'm saying? So, but that's it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I think I gotta find a flavor of the month and just take her to
Listen, the world is yours, man. You can do what you want, man.
Yeah.
And as a police officer, we have to ask you, a retired police officer, do you like donuts?
Do you like donuts?
I have never eaten a donut in uniform.
What?
Never.
Purposely? Because you're
100%.
Purposely, like I did not. That stigma, like
I'm telling you, I walked into Dunkin' Donuts. I was walking into Dunkin' Donuts to get a bagel. Stop laughing. I was going in to get a bagel and a coffee. I was going to get a bagel, and a woman was walking out. She had a box, two boxes of the dozen donuts. So we were in the vestibule, right? So we were crossing paths, and she laughed. She said, "Why you guys like this place?" And I looked at her. I said, "Well, why you like this place? You got 2 dozen donuts. Why you asking me why I like this place? You walking out of here with 2 dozen donuts. Why you asking me why I like this place?"
That's so funny.
But to answer your question, and I know there's a reason why cops get associated with donut shops.
Oh, I want to know that.
Cops are 24/7, right?
Okay.
On the midnights, the only things that are open are donut shops.
Twin donuts. All right.
So cops.
That makes sense.
So cops end up in the donut shops.
That's why you always see the 24/7 logo next to whatever.
True that. There's always diners though. Why don't? Let me stop.
Well, you can't. I mean, you can't sit down and eat. So you go there. You sit on a stool, drink your coffee, eat your donut. You get a radio run, you get out.
Real quick.
So yeah.
Makes sense.
That's why cops associated with donut shops.
Cool beans, man.
Well, listen, thanks for having me, guys. I mean,
thank you for the information you shared and giving your input.
I definitely learned a few things.
Did you really?
Definitely did.
Did I convince you enough to take the test?
No.
Oh, okay.
I would not take the test.
Well, but change only comes from within, brother.
I agree.
That's what got you in.
That's what got me.
I agree.
You can only
thank you so much, Thomas. It was a great time.
Thank you.
Hopefully, whatever you do after college is great. It's awesome.
A lot of traveling.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. No, all jokes aside, I'm humble that you would ask me, and thank you for letting me participate.
And thank you for serving the community.
Appreciate it.
And the country too. Forget
my brother.
All right, man.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Oop.